for Greenhalgh. I work in the School of Environment at Northumbria University. I'm in the property subject division, so I'm a general practice surveyor by profession. And I'm not an expert in sustainability, but what I'm trying to get across to you this afternoon is how you can look at your own carbon footprint. You can start taking some responsibility for your own carbon emissions. And there's plenty of tools to do that. So we have rehearsed this with me and Tim. We don't know how it's going to go, so please be sympathetic and bear with us. I'm a little nervous as to how it's going to work, but yeah. Right, so a simple title, don't just talk, walk. Now, I'll come on to that in a moment. Continue, please, assistant. So, me and Tim are responsible for this, so if there's any problems, blame him, please. Now, we're going to go to a clip on YouTube. We have the visual end, and we don't have audio, and see whether we can get the mic to pick up anything from the laptop. And this should. I'm not sure that's going to be good. You too never use those, do you? So you can access this on YouTube. You just look at the carbon footprint. It's one of the first ones that come up, and it comes from government.gov. That was nice and simple. I know the resolution wasn't brilliant, and those sitting in the back probably didn't appreciate it, but in the clip, there were people just going about their daily lives like you and I, and they were leaving behind a footprint. Now there, the footprints were big black splodgy marks on the carpet, that if you went into your mum's house and did that on the carpet, she'd be shouting and kicking out the house, wouldn't she? But that's the carbon footprint, that's what it's meant to represent. So it's not too preachy, there's some very preachy clips on YouTube about carbon footprints. Okay, we're a nation of hypocrites in many, many ways. One of the best exponents or people to expose this is Ricky Gervais. I think he's got great talent at exposing hypocrisy. But we're all hypocrites. So people talk about climate change, but we don't do much about it. We don't walk the walk. And there's a couple of, these are headlines taken out of the media from last year. Gentleman in the Guardian, Mark Linus, green talk but no green walk. And then Caroline Lucas, who's an MEP for the Green Party, about the European Union must walk its climate talk. You often get Big Brother, state, government agencies, departments. They say one thing, do another. A good example is where DEFRA relocated down to Newburn Riverside a few years ago. They had a relatively green office, high BREEAM rating, and they retrofitted air conditioning into it. But aren't they the ones who are meant to be setting the example? That's the opposite. They're walking the wrong direction. They're not necessarily not walking the walk, they're walking backwards. Okay, so we all need to look at our carbon footprints. And then what I'm going on to do is look at some different calculations. How many people here have done a calculation of their carbon footprint? Anyone? I have. Tim has. Oh, yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there's a few people here who've had a go at this, but most of you, I guess, haven't. If you can put your hands up. You may appreciate what a carbon footprint is. Hopefully by the end of this short presentation you'll understand it a bit more. So these are some of the online carbon calculations. I went through and I reviewed a few, but these are 3 of the best. What I'm hoping to do at the end of this, if we've got time, I think we will, is to get some volunteers to come up and have a go. see what your carbon footprint is like, because you lot should be pretty good, I think. Your lifestyles would suggest, I think, on the whole, that your carbon footprint is fairly low. Not too many of you driving around Chelsea tractors, as the Range Rovers and Land Rovers are called. So, it's direct.gov, which is the government one linked to the presentation that we saw on YouTube, National Energy Foundation and the World Wildlife Fund. They all do the calculations slightly differently. So what these calculators do is they mainly focus on lifestyle. And the reason for that is that we can do something about our lifestyles. You could do a much more open, honest calculation and include your business working life in it. It's a bit like the cliche of you have a sustainability conference in Rio de Janeiro and everyone flies all around the world to get there. And, we've got a joke, we've got a Sustainable Cities Research Institute, and the person with the biggest carbon footprint, I reckon, is the guy who was heading that up, because he was flying around the world to talk about sustainability. So there is some irony there. Anyway, this is the direct.gov calculator. This is one of the ones I might use. Tim, if you could just go to the more about CO2 facts, frequently asked questions, and see, down there. And when you go in here, it talks about aspects of your lifestyle and how it breaks it down. So it mainly looks at your home, domestic arrangement, the appliances you have in your house, or flat or whatever, and the transport, the way you move your body around the planet. And then it adds all those up. And there's further questions there. And one thing I looked at earlier today was just trying to crack this open about the accuracy of these calculators. And they come up with different numbers, and you'll see this later on. So there isn't one right answer. There are things which some calculators include and some exclude. So, as I said already, they're concentrated on your personal life and your domestic arrangements. That's the first thing. So it's trying to concentrate on direct outputs that you generate, that you can do something about. Saying, I'm not going to drive in my car today, I'm going to go on my bike. You can make that decision, you can do something. Whereas a lot of these other things are out of our control. And then there's issues of accuracy and reliability of what's included and what's excluded. So you do get variation. So this is the National Energy Foundation, the second one on that list. This one is one I'm probably not going to use today because it's a bit more cumbersome. It's actually more sophisticated. It asks you more probing questions, particularly about air travel. You actually put in where you fly from, where you fly to. So you're getting a distance. And there's issues with altitude as well. At what height do you fly? And how your emissions impact at different altitudes. So that's quite sophisticated, but as I say, it's a bit cumbersome. It's not as user-friendly as the other one. And then the third one, WWF one, it is very user-friendly, and it actually asks some interesting questions about you, perhaps more about your lifestyle. You see the first icon or image there is about food. What you eat, and are you a vegetarian? Do you eat meat? Because if you eat meat, your carbon footprint is greater because there's grazing and deforestation, and you take 8 kilos of feed to create 1 kilo of meat, which isn't very sustainable at all. So if you want to be sustainable, turn vegetarian. I'm not sure that's going to convince too many people, but the figures are there, you can run it. Then it looks at travel home, and I like the last one, stuff. It's one of my favourite words, stuff. Captures everything. So those are the calculators. So this presentation, I believe, can be made available, and all those hyperlinks are there. So if you can access this through the e-learning platform, then you can just click straight on it and take you to there. So some contextual issues. The scope of it, do you do it as an individual, as a family? When I've done this, I've done it as a family. I'm a family unit. I've got a partner and 2 kids, so there's 4 of us. Most students do it as an individual. But there's also issues about cohabitation. You're living often in digs with other students. So you are a unit, and you're sharing things between you. Yeah? Central heating is heating the whole building often, not just your room. Depends whether you have central heating. Back in my day, we tended not to, and just fight over the fire and who could sit closest to it. So there's issues there about whether it's an individual thing. I mentioned about the work dimension and how that can be make a big impact. Tim will acknowledge that, won't you, Tim? So you did the calculator, he said, I'm not putting the work in, just personal stuff. Accuracy, this is quite an interesting one. When it talks about electricity, the calculators ask you how many kilowatt hours of electricity you use. I don't think there'll be too many people here could put their hand up and say, I know exactly how many kilowatt hours I use. But then the way they do it, the proxy for that is what your fuel bills, what's your electricity bill per month, per quarter or per annum, and then it works back to roughly what you're using up. But there are some electricity providers, one of which I do use, which are completely renewable. So if you get electricity from Good Energy or Ecotricity, it's all renewable, carbon neutral. Their energy is only generated from renewables like mainly water, wind, solar, not nuclear. And therefore your electricity should be neutral. So that's one good way people can make a real difference, change their electricity supply, and don't be conned by these green tariffs. The green tariffs are a bit of a con because, say, one of the big generators can say, right, we currently generate 10% from renewables. And if you go on the green tariff, we promise that every kilowatt hour you use up is covered by our renewable generation. So it only makes a difference if you are the one pushing the 10%. Until there are 10% of customers on the tariff, yeah, they're always well within the margin that they're already generating. So unless you push that to be the 11%, yeah, there are more than 10% customers on the green tariff, that's when they're forced to generate more renewables. So I'm a bit of a cynic, and I think some power generation companies have been taking money on the green tariff for not doing anything. It doesn't actually provoke them to do anything until you're the one who's just pushing the margins out further. Sophistication, I mentioned about air travel pollution, that the NEF one was very good for travel by aeroplane. And when you look at air travel, it's scary. If you do one long-haul flight, if you do a return to Australia, for example, your emissions are roughly equivalent to you running an average family car on an average sort of usage for 2 years. So if you've flown to Australia and back in a year, you shouldn't use your car for the next 2 years. Alternatively, don't have a car and you can fly to Australia and back every couple of years. It's the same as someone using the car. So air travel has a really big impact, and you can appreciate why there's such protests about expansion of airports. And then currency, most of the calculators work in tonnes of carbon dioxide. But the WWF one is slightly different. You can get a CO2 calculation, but it works in planets. We must live within our resource. Any of you who've studied economics will understand limitless wants, finite resources. That is the basic economic problem. We want more than we've got. This planet has finite resources. So we can only live within the resource of the planet. So you're allocated one planet's worth of planet. So it actually works out how many planets you're using. And when I did this calculator, I think I came out about 1.6 planets, which is obviously far too much. I should be at 1. But I'm still better than the average. And it actually came out, I think 1.6 is about the 2020 target. So I'm currently living at what we need to do by 2020. And clearly some people will be gobbling up 2 or 3 planets. And if you had some Americans here, yeah, you can imagine how many planets they're using up. Okay. And there's targets they benchmark against. Yeah, continue, please. Okay. What I'm just going to do is show you some profiles. Before Easter, I sent an email around to all staff. That was academic and support staff, asking staff to volunteer to be guinea pigs, to go and have a go at these calculators, give me the numbers back. And I got some responses, not many. There's some people sitting in this room who haven't responded, and I expect after this session and hearing the wise words that I've had to say, they're going to do this. Because I wanted a profile across the school. What I tended to get were from people who are already trying to do their bit. So I think I've got the dark green end of the spectrum in terms of people, because they're sort of not ashamed to do it. I have got a bit of a profile, but interestingly, there were no non-academics did it. None of the support staff had a go. Or if they did, they didn't tell me what their numbers were, which is a shame, because I don't think it's not an academic exercise. Everyone can do this. So, there's profile 1, a young family. The person involved isn't here, but there's 2 adults, 2 young children. This guy's pretty green. Starts to work every day with his kids on one of those little double carry things on the back. Yeah? He has a car, but he doesn't do much of a mileage. Flies once a year, gas central heating, semi-detached house, with insulation loft, whatever. Usual appliances. You've got a dryer. Tumble dryers are very bad. Hang it on the washing line. Up in the northeast, you're not going to get very dry washing, are you? But, okay. The next one is a mature couple, no kids. This person is in the room, but I'm not going to embarrass them by mentioning who they are. Small car, relatively modest, distance travelled. They commute by train to work, flying within the EU once a year, and usual gas central heating. I think they have fairly high computer usage. This person maybe correct me on that, but unusual domestic appliances. So nothing out of the normal, fairly common profile. This is slightly different. This person was here this morning, but I met him walking up Granger Street on the way back. He's going to be here tomorrow afternoon, so I can get him in the room. But this is a young member of staff, and he's very sort of techie, wants to be well connected electronically. So he hasn't got a car, there's other people living in his house. So this might be why it skews his calculation a bit, that he's down as an individual, but he's actually sharing some of these emissions with the people he's living with. He's a ground floor flat, he's got loads of appliances. I didn't list them all, but he's got gadgets coming out of his ears, this guy. So he's got quite a lot of energy usage associated with it. And lastly, this is a younger couple, without children at the moment, but who knows. Driving a fairly modest distance, no more than 10,000 miles per annum, using the metro, 4 domestic return flights and 1 short haul, so probably flying a bit too much. Annual fuel bills, roughly that, terrace house, some double glazing, domestic appliances. Okay, so those are profiles. Now we can go into the results. Now, those of you at the back might struggle to see this. I'll just talk you through these results. So they are the 4 profiles, and these are the 3 calculators. The people who've done this haven't necessarily done all 3 calculations. So I'll get up on the stage. So everyone's had a go at the direct Gov one. And the young family, you can see, are pretty good. It's split down to domestic, house, and transport emissions. And their total, and you can see the totals come out differently, so that's what I'm saying, there's no right answer. 3.5 tonnes. Now, trust me, that's very good for a family. They're coming out better than some of the individuals. The mature couple are coming out at 10.5 tonnes. The house is generating quite a large contribution of that. The young single, too many gadgets, look, house, 10, 15, is coming out top of all. And again, I think there is a skew there because he is sharing, cohabiting with other people. And I think there's some of those costs attributed to him that actually are benefiting the rest of the household. And finally, the younger couple, 10.6. So you see the other 3 are pretty close, but this colleague of ours, and I know he's a dedicated green person, he's doing his best, and it's making a difference. He's changed his lifestyle. And he's living in a much more sustainable way. The NEF one, not everyone had a go at this. You can see the numbers vary. Usually that one was coming out higher. It's 12.9 compared to 11.3, but for this family it actually came out lower, which is odd. So you can see how the different calculators work. And then finally the WWF one, which is how many planets. So this family is using approximately 2 planets, when it should be only using 1. I mentioned my family, which is almost identical to this guy. 2 adults, 2 young children, and I think it's about 1.6, 1.7. But clearly these people are using far too much of the planet. Someone elsewhere in the planet is going to be suffering for that, probably in Bangladesh. Yeah? And then what these calculators do is it gives you recommendations. So it doesn't just say, there's your number. It says, there's your number, go and do something useful about that. So some of these recommendations are draft proofing, double glazing, considering renewables. I've given you the name of 2 electricity providers that provide 100% renewable energy. Yeah? It's neutral. Perhaps using your microwave. I know it's not very good for cooking, but it uses less energy. Walk more, reduce your heating. I don't know if about some of you, I have a battle with my other half on the thermostat control. I'm always putting it down below 17, she's putting it up, and every time we walk past the thermostat, we turn it the other way. So it goes up and down probably about 20 times every evening. And finally, doing more walking and cycling would be good, and it gets you fitter, helps you lose weight, things like that. So that's just an interesting profile for staff. But I do think they're towards the greener end. I think there's some members of staff who could come in with some monster numbers if they had to go at this. Okay, what we don't have time to do, but this is the invitation. Yeah. Okay, when we have the cafe, we might pull some people up to have a go at this. Tim, if you just move on, I've got a table, and if I can do this with a couple of people today, and a couple of people tomorrow, we've got a result. See if you staff can live greener, reduce your carbon footprints better than the staff can. The students can beat the staff. So, anyway, and then finally, Tim, so have a go in your own time. The links will be there if you go through this presentation. Take notes of the recommendations. Don't just read them. Do something about it. Change your lifestyle, reduce your carbon footprint, and, where I came in, don't just talk the talk, walk the walk. Thank you.